As I was going around to do consultation, they were boasting that the time will come when you will come back to us, and the money you are not spending now, you must spend it. Because when I came out, I was telling them I don't have money. I'm not coming to share money. I'm coming with an agenda. I was telling them my blueprint, and they were saying I'm stingy. And they were saying that we are waiting for you. We are delegates. When the time comes, the money you are holding, you must give us. I was hearing them.
Interesting. So we begin today's conversation taking our quote first from Ramon Antonio Guerrero Estevez, known professionally as Martin Sheen, an American actor. He once said, "Future generations are not going to ask us what political party we are in. They are going to ask, what did you do about it when you knew the glaciers were melting?" All right, then let's take our second quote, and this one is from Chief Obafemi Jeremiah Oyeni Awolowo, GCFR, a Nigerian nationalist and statesman who played a key role in Nigeria's independence movement, the First and Second Republics, and the Civil War. He once said, "The influence which a nation exerts, the respect which it enjoys, and the prestige accorded to it on the world scene depend on two important factors: the size of its wealth and the caliber of its leadership." Great quote, you'd say. Now let's see how all of this relates to what we will be discussing tonight. Very warm greetings and welcome to The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabelle Oji. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has urged political parties to stick to the 2023 election timetable, as it would not allow party primaries beyond June 3rd deadline. Now, against the backdrop of calls, especially by the Inter-Party Advisory Council, IPAC, and the Abuja School of Politics and Social Thought for time extension in the electoral timetable, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, said political parties would not hurry the electoral umpire into altering the schedule of activities it has already released since February 26th on account of their own poor preparation. Now, INEC further said that it did not receive any complaints relating to the timetable till about April. Speaking to the media, INEC National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education Committee, Festus Okoye, said the 18 registered political parties had been busy conducting their primary elections and never complained about the timetable. Now, according to Okoye, he was quoted as saying that there is no cogent and verifiable reason for any extension, and the chairman of the commission, that's Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, has made it clear that the timeliness is fixed and firm. Now, according to him, he further stated that altering the timetable or the timelines at this point in time may throw the entire timetable and schedule of activities out of gear. Now, the political parties must brace up to the challenges of the timetable and make the necessary sacrifices consistent with this period. He said that INEC had already deployed hundreds of its directing and senior management staff, as well as other staff, to different parts of the country to monitor the congresses and primaries of the political parties. Okoye further stated that it is too late in the day to demoralize them, as the commission has so many other activities needing their attention. We have, according to him, he reminded us that we have the Ekiti state elections, we have the Osun gubernatorial elections in a few weeks. So they have to complete the ongoing CVR and print voters' card of millions of Nigerians. Now, in like manner, the Chief Press Secretary to INEC Chairman Rotimi Oyekanmi said that the extant laws indeed give INEC the power as a regulator of political parties to determine when party primaries should take place, contrary to the gentleman's view. Now, that is the big elephant in the room, or better say, in Nigeria's political space today. And our guest, of course, is Terver Atsar, and we will be talking to him after this time out. Do join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. If you just joined us, you're right on time for the interview. Tonight, we will be chatting with Terver Atsar. He is governorship aspirant in Benue State. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm Abuja.
Yeah, great to meet you, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right, sir. Let's start by asking, we know that you're a governorship aspirant for Benue State. How's that coming along? Because we're here to see your posters flying around, and then we're here to see you going to meet statutory delegates like we see almost everybody doing. What is happening with that move?
Yeah, in Benue, we have, in Benue PDP, we have a zoning arrangement.
Okay.
And presently, the zoning arrangement does not favor me. So I have stepped down on my campaign. But in the last 2 years, I was all over the place. I believe you got to know about me because of my movement.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I went around the whole state trying to consult with key stakeholders, party men, party leaders, market women, students, religious groups, and all sorts of stakeholders. And I was on ground. But at a point, the parties sat together and said they have a zoning formula among the political blocs. My bloc happened to be out of the zoning.
Which is your block?
My block is Kwande.
Okay.
Kwande is made up of 2 local government areas in the Zone A senatorial district. So Kwande has Ushongo and Kwande local government.
Okay.
So I am from Ushongo local government. So the Kwande block happened to be the very first block that produced the first civilian governor of Benue State in 1979. And we believed that the governorship has gone round and it ought to have come back to Kwande. So essentially, bulk of the aspirants came out from Kwande. But we also have a Jechila block, which is made up of Vandikia and Konshisha local governments. During the aborted republic, where we had the military head of state and the civilian governors, we had a governor called the Reverend Father Adasu. And the military truncated his first tenure.
Okay.
And therefore, they came up with the argument that they did not finish their term. So the party should consider compensating them. So in their wisdom, the party decided to throw that argument.
Okay, so is that
so essentially, those of us who are from Kwande, contesting on the platform of PDP, were zoned out.
So you actually didn't know all of this before you started
the arguments were not put forward as at the time we started.
Okay.
And the arguments, we believed we had a very solid argument, because in a democracy and with other positions that were affected by that same military intervention, they were not compensated. We had a senator who was also removed because the military intervened, but that senator has not been compensated. That zone has not been...
What does compensation mean?
Compensation here means I did not finish my term, give it back to me.
Ah, okay.
Do you understand? The argument is, I started my term of 4 years. I didn't finish it. So giving back an opportunity to finish that term
Okay. Okay, so before because we've actually diverted from what we're talking about,
Yeah.
we're supposed to, our topic of discussion for today, but before we get straight to our business for tonight, now, we've always heard that there's this, there's supposed to be zoning, or probably you have the Idomas are being the one enjoying the seat for a long time. Oh, yes.
No, the other way around, the thief.
The thief, okay,
Yeah.
the thief. So he's supposed to go to the Idomas. So they have been protesting and clamoring to get the seat that it has been ongoing for even over 40 years. So is there any opportunity for an Idoma to get that seat?
Obviously, yes, the Idoma can get that seat, but it will come with a lot of hard work because democracy works by numbers. The population of Idoma, relative to that of thief, is like 1/4. So when you say democracy, the majority of the people go in there and they vote their own person. So it becomes very difficult for an Idoma person to muzzle that numbers. But again, what I mean by hard work here is that there could be an Idoma person who will be so popular, so much accepted by the rest of the state, that the issue of whether he's thief or Idoma will not arise. So when that time comes,
do you ever see that time coming?
Sorry?
Do you ever see that time coming?
It will surely come.
Okay, great.
It will surely come.
All right.
Nothing is impossible in politics. We had a minority president from the Ijaw nation, because numerically the Ijaws, they cannot muzzle that numbers that is required to give them the presidency. But somehow, fate, destiny, and political calculations favored Jonathan, and he became president.
Okay.
So we don't say
so
never.
You have such faith for
yes.
the Idomas?
Yes.
All right, great. So now let's get down to business. We finally reached the period of primaries for all political parties, regardless of how much these political parties keep shifting the dates. It's already here and cannot exceed the June 3rd or maybe June 2nd, like some people would say, according to INEC. And they've actually warned that the extension of these primaries will have dire consequences. That's according to the electoral umpire. So now let's talk about the process of political parties leadership recruitment for all political positions across the country. What are your assessments of the process so far?
Basically, I feel we are still learning the ropes. A lot of things are still not right with our democracy. The political parties, like I've just analyzed what happened in PDP, there could be some primordial arguments that will just push things in one direction. I believe I was a very credible candidate in my party, but zoning pushed me out.
Do you feel agitated about that?
Not agitated, because I know the party has something like zoning before I joined. And I knew it could have been me. And I would have also expected others to support me. So to that extent, I am not agitated. But I feel like Benue has been cheated because they were denied that opportunity to make a good choice. So what I'm trying to say is that the political parties have not been structured to always get it right as it is now. Because when I was going around for my consultations, one of the questions that kept popping up was, who is your godfather? That question kept coming up.
Really? So we still have questions like that coming up?
From the voters. So that tells you their mindset. The voters are not yet confident that they have the powers to select their leaders. They have been conditioned to believe that a godfather must plant you. So when I came, I didn't have a godfather. I had a burden in my heart. I saw the challenges my people are going through, and I decided, let me come and help. So I was going around, but nobody was asking me, what are you bringing to the table? What are you going to do differently? What have you done in the past? What is your history? What is your educational qualification? What are your ski pools? Nobody was asking me
And those are the
these
key questions to ask.
They were asking me, who is your godfather? How deep is your pocket? How is your bank account? You see, so when these things take the forefront, those who have the money takes the lead. It doesn't matter whether they are competent or not. Those who have godfathers take the lead. It doesn't matter whether they are competent or not.
Okay.
So as it is now, I can say that the parties have not been structured to give that headroom for merit. We are still looking at zoning, we are looking at money, we are looking at godfathers, we are looking at patrimony, we are looking at patronage. So these are not the yardsticks for recruiting leadership. Let's look at the industrial sector, for instance.
Okay.
When you want to recruit, first of all, you don't look at the person who will fit into that job. You first look at what that job is, actually the roles and responsibilities in that job, because you are looking at the business outcomes that will come from the activities that will be executed by whoever is sitting in that position. So you start thinking from the job description. What are the skill set? Is this person, what is the experience he's supposed to have? What level of educational qualification that person is supposed to have? Without necessarily having somebody in mind. Once you have done your job description, then you will put that job in a public space for people to apply. Now, people will now put in their CVs. As a HR consultant, you will now start trying to match the content of the CV with the job requirements. Now, there could be 1, 2, 3, 10 people or 100 that may fit in to some extent. So that eliminates the bulk of the applicants, and that gives you a short list. Now, from the short list, you can invite for interview for these people to come and actually demonstrate how true what they put in their CV.
But according to you, this is not what is playing out in the political parties.
Sector. So when you do that rigorously in the business sector, you keep getting positive outcomes.
Okay.
But in the political setting, no job description. The people don't even know who a senator is. Their expectation from a senator is not who a senator is. For instance, they will be asking how many bridges has the senator built.
Are you speaking for Benue State or generally?
Speaking for Nigeria as a whole.
Okay.
The people don't know that a senator is just a lawmaker. But when it comes to his constituency, the people there are expecting him to be building bridges, sinking boreholes, building schools and all that. That is not the job of a senator. Same thing for House of Rep or even members of the House of Assembly. The people have different expectations from these people. So if I come in, for instance, as a senator, and I have money, I can go and build a borehole in a community, and the people will hear me. They will say I'm a good leader. They are not asking, can I make laws? Do I have the experience for lawmaking? No. They just say I build a borehole, which is not my job. But for that reason, I'm going to the Senate. When I get to the Senate, I will not contribute to the lawmaking process because I have nothing to offer there. But if the people get to know the roles and responsibilities of leaders, that will be the starting point.
Okay.
So when people show up, we interrogate them based on their capacity. Okay, right now, Look at the presidential aspirants in the APC, for instance. Most of them are ministers of this current government. Now, the question should be, what has this man done in his ministry in the past government? Because you cannot judge you on what you are promising to do. We should judge you on what you have done with the opportunities given to you. These people bought forms, hundreds of millions of naira. They are going around the country campaigning, but nobody is telling us what they have done differently.
Okay, we'll definitely come back to that. We have a lot to discuss in these few seconds or minutes that we have, but we'll definitely come back to that. So now, you talked about the money bags and then the money politics. But yes, and then you talk about the hundreds of millions that are being spent on political parties to purchase the nomination forms or expression of interest forms. And some Nigerians will say, okay, now we've already shifted from that part of talking about the huge sums of money that are being paid for these nomination forms. But then we saw recently that some reports where the anti-graft agency, the EFCC, arrested some public officers like the former House of Reps Speaker Patricia Ete, and also you had the former MD of NDDC Nsima Ikere over 47 billion naira fraud, and they also have the serving Accountant General who was picked up over 80 billion naira. So maybe others will definitely crop up in no time. So how much do you think that this will affect or impact other public officers? Doesn't have to be politicians alone, but other aspirants in terms of spending money, to be extremely careful so that they don't get caught in the web?
Well, I'm surprised, really, very surprised that such things are happening under Buhari, because all the people you mentioned are key players in the APC government. And you remember why we voted for Buhari was because of his anti-corruption stand. So when these stories come out, it baffles our minds how this can be happening within this government, that billions of naira are being stolen by the agents of government. Well, let me not sound partisan here, really, but it's a disappointment that these are the same people who will circulate this money back into the political arena and be recruiting voters. So when these people get into power, what do you expect? It will be corruption continue. So it is a bad omen for the country that a government with so much invested our confidence in, a government with so much put our hope in to stamp this issue of corruption, has turned out to be very, very deep into it.
So do you think
you
that
may not accuse Buhari in person, because we have not pointed anything to him as a person, but when you sit there at the head and all your lieutenants are stinking corrupt, then we begin to question your ability to manage them, to control them, to sift between the wheat and the chaff.
So do you think that this will actually make other people sit tight?
They will not sit tight.
Because now you have people who pay 100 million for a form.
They will not sit tight, because the problem we have goes even beyond arresting them, goes beyond EFCC picking them up. After EFCC picks them up, what happens? The same money is used to free them from the EFCC net. Sometimes it goes to the judiciary, and the judiciary is also influenced. And these people come back. How many people have been jailed so far? The few who are jailed, you may find out that it is because they stepped on certain toes, not necessarily because of the stealing, because A and B stole the same amount of money. You jail A, B is walking free on the streets. So what becomes your basis? So you find out that these guys will use the same money they have stolen in billions to corrupt the law enforcement, and they will be set free. So if I stay 10 billion and I use 2 billion or 4 billion to free myself, I still have 6 billion to go and enjoy. So people are not really losing sleep over their arrests.
Okay. So now let's talk about the statutory delegates. Now, there are candidates who are quite flimsy and have nothing to bring to the table, but they have the deep pockets, like you said, to buy votes and to buy up delegates. So now, what are your thoughts on the use of delegates? That's the use of the indirect mode of primaries, because a lot of people have said it is expensive, it is just a corrupt way of providing more job for the boys and then giving them so much gifts. Do you agree with that assertion?
On a personal note, I would have gone with direct primaries because at least it gives a semblance of fair play, and the more the merrier, because in democracy it's a game of numbers. So the more people gather to select a candidate, the more popular that candidate is supposed to be. So basically, I will go with direct primaries, because when these delegates are for sale, they become for the highest bidder. Some people, all these 4 years, they are waiting in the background, hoping to be made delegates. Some have borrowed huge amounts of money waiting for this period. Some have you
ever been a delegate before? A statutory delegate?
No.
So how did you, are you able to know that they...
I'm a politician.
Oh, so you know what they do?
I know what I interact with them. Some of them, as I was going around to do consultation, they were boasting that the time will come when you will come back to us, and the money you are not spending now, you must spend it. Because when I came out, I was telling them I don't have money. I'm not coming to share money. I'm coming with an agenda. I was telling them my blueprint, and they were saying I'm stingy. And they were saying that we are waiting for you. We are delegates. When the time comes, the money you are holding, you must give us. I was hearing them.
Interesting.
So that is it.
Okay, so now what are your thoughts on the reports of exempting statutory delegates from election? Do you think that's a move in the right direction?
I have just told you I want direct primaries. So delegates, whether statutory or non-statutory, I don't have pity for delegates, whether they are statutory or they are non-statutory delegates.
Are you actually venting out of what they've done to you previously?
No. I've told you the basis that democracy requires numbers.
Okay.
The more, the better. And the real people who are going to be affected by governance are the voters. These delegates are government appointees, the so-called statutory delegates. They are government appointees and the elected members of the executive, the legislature. These are people who are in government, who wants to perpetuate themselves, their cabals. So giving that opportunity to them to select our leaders means they can just continue picking from their cabal. And that eliminates, but if somebody like me goes into the field, I can defeat some of these people that have been there without anything to show for it. Because the people will want a new blood. The people may listen to my story. So if I go direct primaries, I have a chance. But making delegates to become a barrier to entry has been one of the problems we have. As a nation in trying to recruit. That's why you see people circulating themselves. Because if I'm a senator now, for instance, I have access to so much money that I can use that money to pay the delegates and return the ticket. Even though I'm not popular, I will still go back. But there could be someone coming from the blue who can upstage you if given the opportunity to be voted by. Remember the option A4 that was done during the Babangida's transition when Abiola contested for elections. You just come and queue up behind your candidate publicly. So the longer line wins. And sometimes these village people, they don't know the difference between the Abuja politician and the local politician. They are looking at who will touch their lives based on the story you have told them. So you have chances of recruiting fresh blood through direct primaries. But the politicians, they're like chameleon, they cannot change their spots.
Are you referring to yourself also, since you're a politician?
Yes, I'm one of them.
Okay.
With direct primaries, they still find ways they can manipulate it. I won't go into the details, but even direct primaries is not foolproof. They still have ways they can manipulate it to get their desired outcome. So
I'm sure Nigerians want to know exactly how they manipulate.
You will not hear it from my mouth.
Interesting. You're actually bent on not telling us how exactly these primaries are being manipulated, because I'm sure Nigerians want to know. Since you're a politician, and then you already know
I'm not that type
things.
of politician.
Okay.
I didn't say I'm joining them. I'm only told you that
what you see them do.
I know what they do.
Okay, give us one hint. How do they manipulate in the primaries?
You know how they manipulate the general elections?
No, I don't know.
You don't know? Okay. For instance, suppose I am the governor of my state.
Okay.
And they are doing direct primaries. And the party has sent their officials to conduct the primaries. Normally, they will set up a panel. Then INEC will also send their representatives. Now, these are the people who are going to manipulate the result sheets. So if I settle the INEC people with money, and I also settle the party officials who are conducting the election with instructions to deliver a certain outcome, what do you think will happen?
So does INEC officials also have their hand in the cookie
I'm not
jar?
accusing them of anything.
Okay.
That's why I said, don't quote me. Don't put me on the spot. But I'm just giving you an insight of what can happen.
Have you seen this kind of things happen? Or you're still...
You are in Nigeria.
Well, not
you are
only
in
Nigeria.
You have witnessed previous elections where they were ballot snatching, they were changing of results. And this is what led to the issue of electronic transmission of results being put inside the Electoral Act, is to block such things. So INEC is aware of
this kind of things
Okay,
so
and
we'll
they
do
have
for a break.
continuously been trying to improve the process. So that electronic transmission, let's see how it works, because I'm looking at it from a different angle in terms of infrastructure, the internet facilities being available everywhere in the country at the same time. I doubt how practical that is. But let's assume in a theoretical setting that it works.
Okay.
Then it will be a blocker to those antics.
Okay, so since we're due for a break, I would just like to get your yes or no. Do you think that the electronic, this upgrade, the beavers and all that INEC has brought forth, this electronic transmission of result, do you think it will actually stop that election malpractice that we've always experienced?
It should.
But yes or no?
Because of... No, it should. That's a yes.
Okay.
But I'm just telling you the blockers.
Okay.
That it may not work because of infrastructure deficit. In my village, once I go to my village where I was born, my WhatsApp goes off because the internet there is 3G. It's not 4G. And sometimes it's not regular. So let's assume we're in a polling unit where there's no data. Or when the network goes off, I know we're using internet and the telephone networks to do this electronic transmission, right? So if these systems fail, because they are not available everywhere in the country, so some polling units will not be able to transmit. And
I recall that there's a particular legislator or some legislators who actually brought up that report saying that because of network failure in their villages, it could hamper that exercise. So you agree that from your village. It could happen.
It can happen.
All right, great. Let's go on this quick break, and when we return, we'll expand this conversation a little bit further. I will see you shortly. Don't move a muscle. The streets are not smiling. The market is not smiling. The youths are not smiling also. So how do you speak to the conscience of a particular youth who has no money in his pocket, who does not know where the next meal is going to come from? Tell him that when a particular politician dangles money at your face, say no to it. How do you actually convince them not to?
It's a difficult thing because a hungry man knows no morals. When you are hungry, you can fall to the cheapest of temptations. And let me say that these people know the game they are playing. It's a deliberate way of keeping this youth hungry so they can use them. He said, I have been saying that if you liberate the Nigerian youth in their thinking, we can change this country.
Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We are reaching you from Kaftan's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. If you just joined us, you've missed quite a lot because our guest is Terver Atsar. He is a governorship aspirant in Benue State. All right, before we went on that break, we said quite a lot of things, quite a lot. But now let's talk about still on that statutory delegates. Since we've already been able to establish how they can manipulate in primaries and all, how then do we explain or educate them that their choice of candidates has a way of determining the quality of government that that they, even themselves and their families, will enjoy or suffer in the next 4 years or even beyond? Because we're all Nigerians and we're in this together.
Well, it's a continuous awareness thing. We need to continuously engage. There's no other way, because these things have been with us over time and it has become a culture. So to shift from that culture to a new way of life takes time, and it takes a lot of effort. So we're not going to wish that these people will change overnight.
Okay.
But with people like us who came with no godfathers, who came without money, and we're going house to house telling people what we can do, we wanted to change the narrative and let people see that without money, you can still pick a leader who has the good of the people at heart.
Okay.
So this is something I encourage people to come out, because I wasn't interested in partisan politics over a very long period of time. I was a critic. I was standing by the sidelines, looking at what the politicians are doing and commenting on it. And I felt I can never score any goal on the outside. Before you can score, you must enter the field and play. Because over the years, I've been challenging bad leadership with my criticism, with my writings, and nothing has happened. Those criticism has not turned into bridges or roads or infrastructure or
like
schools.
they say, you cannot win by fighting or arguing all the time.
Yeah. So I felt, let me play into the system. You can change the system from within.
Okay.
So I came in with that mindset. So with more of my type coming into the arena, we can continuously improve the process, but it's not going to happen overnight, because some of these delegates, their minds are set. They see it as their one in a lifetime opportunity to make money. Like the primaries they did in my local government just some few days ago, some delegates were going home with 2 million, 3 million from the aspirants. This is money they have not made all their life. So when they play such kind of opportunity on,
that's why you have some of them, the politicians put them in the pocket.
Exactly.
Okay, now, so before we leave the issue of delegates, now, very quickly, we understand that the bulk of choosing the right candidates to represent the political parties stop at their own table. from the primaries. And this leadership recruitment process is actually what decides the outcome of elections. For instance, the 2023 elections, even though we had Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State saying that he thinks differently, because he says that President Muhammadu Buhari holds the ace on final choice. So first, when I actually saw that report, first thing that came to my mind is I'll ask you two questions and I'd like you to take them very quickly in one breath. Now, first, are the delegates fully aware and briefed on how weighty the shoes they're wearing is? And because it actually goes way beyond meeting and being wooed by these aspirants like you talked about. It actually goes way beyond that. And secondly, going by the democratic process of elections, which is supposed to be one man, one vote, does President Muhammadu Buhari really have the final say?
The answer is yes and no.
Okay.
In my state, let me give you an example why I said yes and no. In my state, the governor made a choice about who should fly the ticket. But some aspirants are still in the race who are saying, let's go to the primaries. Okay? If at the primaries, the delegates choose the other person who is not the anointed person by the governor, then he will not have a final say. But as far as his position is concerned, he has taken side with somebody now. And most of these delegates are supposed to follow
that suit.
And that is where the issue of statutory delegates comes in, because the governors have these people in their pocket. Now, the reason why the National Assembly was trying to checkmate the governors, but they ended up shooting themselves in the foot, was when they were trying to pull out those statutory delegates from the voting, they were trying to checkmate the governors, because the governors were becoming too powerful. But by mistake or by coincidence or by God's act, they ended up shooting themselves in the foot. When they realized it and quickly went back to amend the law, the president refused to sign. So it's like they used the gun and shot themselves, because the governors use those delegates as their power to impose whoever they want. Now, APC, Buhari can decide to say, this is my choice. And if he has so much influence upon the party, people will not want to kick against the decision of the president, and therefore he will have the final say. But at the same time, if they go into primaries, and for whatever reason, some people decided to rebel and vote against the will of the president, he will not have the final say. So that's why I said yes or no. So Zuru may have made that statement. It could be there is something he knows that I don't know. But the answer is not here and there, because it's not absolutism here. The delegates, and I think APC is towing more towards direct primaries. In my state, they are doing direct primaries. I don't know whether they will do direct primaries at the national level, but they already set venue for a convention in Abuja, which then tells me that it's not going to be direct, because you can't bring everybody to Abuja. So if it's going to be delegates, then there's some level of influence that will come from the presidency. But Buhari has stated somewhere, I heard him saying that his choice is the choice of the people. He has not made any statement anywhere to show that he's favoring anybody. Because when he was asked who he will hand over to, he said he will hand over to the person Nigerians will choose.
But the person that he's not going to mention,
no, he
for
didn't
fear of
mention,
being elimination,
he didn't mention
eliminated
anybody.
rather.
Yeah.
Okay, now so let's talk about youth participation or youth inclusion. Now, since the days of my great-grandmother, we've always, in fact, she was told that the youth are the future leaders of tomorrow. now, and it's almost sounded like a popular cliche in Nigeria today, because you have you have huge number or huge amount that being spent on nomination forms or expression of interest form, from 40 million naira to 100 million naira, as the case may be in different political parties, and yet they keep telling you that they will provide a level playing ground for everyone with such amount of money. So does that in reality provide a level playing field, especially for that youth who has the ideas, for someone like you who already has the ideas but you don't have the money bag to spend? How much will that deter them from running or getting inclusive?
There's a deliberate design to sideline the youth of this country from participating in the political process. Some of these people who are our leaders now started leading us when they were 33, some in their 20s. And up to today, they are still recycling themselves. And the youth are blocked in so many ways. Now, it starts from unemployment, for instance. Somebody goes to the university, comes out at 25, and spends 10 years looking for a job that is not there. He becomes 35 years old. He's still jobless. How does he get 20 million to buy a governorship form in the PDP? How does he get 100 million to buy a governorship form in the APC when he has not even been able to feed himself? So these youth have been programmed to be dependent on these people. That's why you find them recruiting these youth to be doing dirty jobs for them. In the era of ballot snatching, you find out that they recruit these people. Some of them are graduates, but because there are no jobs, these people who are supposed to be building a career in the banks, in the oil industry, in the insurance, and different, they are roaming the streets. They have nothing to do. So when these politicians beckon onto them, come and be our boys, then they come. Some can be domestic aides in the kitchen. Some can be running errands for them. Some are pimps, sorry to say. And then they are working for these politicians with no practical experience in management or whatever. If by chance these politicians decide to, let's say, appoint aides, senior assistants, special assistants, they will pick from this group of boys.
So then how do we begin to solve this? Sorry to cut in there. Yeah. So now how do you begin to solve? Because we already know that these things happen. Now you have ASU, they've been on strike for months. You have ASU have joined them. And then you have unemployment rates over 30%. Even the youth unemployment is still there. Now, Engineer Terver, the streets are not smiling. The market is not smiling. The youths are not smiling also. So how do you speak to the conscience of a particular youth who has no money in his pocket, who does not know where the next meal is going to come from? Tell him that when a particular politician dangles money at your face, say no to it. How do you actually convince them not to?
It's a difficult thing because a hungry man knows no morals. When you are hungry, you can fall to the cheapest of temptations. And let me say that these people know the game they are playing. It's a deliberate way of keeping this youth hungry so they can use them. I have been saying that if you liberate the Nigerian youth in our thinking, we can change this country. Look at what happened during EndSARS. But these same people took bullets, live bullets, went to Lekki and shot some people who are protesting peacefully, and the youth scattered. They couldn't come back together again. So these people know what the youth can do, and they have been doing everything to stop them.
So now you said that the youth scattered and they could not come back again. Is that where the problem is?
Because of the bullets.
No, I'm saying
you cannot stand against the bullets.
I'm saying in reality now, is that the issue where, because you have the youth, they come together, they galvanize themselves together, but then when when the politicians or the big people come to scatter them, they don't have the ability to come back again?
We are human beings, my sister. We're human, and Nigerians love life. When we make an example of one person, the rest we scatter. If we come out in the street today, for instance, for a peaceful protest, and you use live bullets, and you bring down one member of the protesters, the rest will fall back. And any attempt to come back again, you will remember the person you knew that was shot in your presence. You want to come out again. So from the time 1999 till now, there has been a systemic exclusion agenda by these elites to exclude the youth by mounting these barriers. If you jump one barrier, they mount another. You jump this one. For somebody like me, I have no such background of having godfathers working for politicians or running around them. I've been working in the industry, building my career, building my experience. I've learned a lot of things internationally, which I think I can bring to the table. But when I came out to contest, like I told you, they were asking me who is my godfather. That was a top criteria on their ranking.
But then is it enough reason or enough excuse for the youth to decide to back down? Because you have people like the Gani and the lawyers. You have people like Fela who were there, and they, regardless, come rain, come shine, whatever you do to them, they keep getting stronger every day.
We lost that era long ago.
Oh.
I remember when we were in school, the student unionism was so strong. We could fight the military. In the era of Nadeko, the student union were key players in Nadeko. And they fought the military, even though the military were carrying guns. The civilians now should have been less difficult to tackle, but yet, because they have used our... ASU contributed to what we're having. Anytime you are having elections, it's not professors from the universities that superintend the elections. All the returning officers are members of ASU. They have been every member of the electoral panels. The chairman of INEC is always a professor, a member of ASU. They have been the ones conducting these elections. So ASU has been a contributor to our problems, so to say. Because when they go there and they are used, they are manipulated, and they forced upon us this kind of leaders that we have. These are the people who will refuse to pay their salaries.
Okay.
And they have lost the moral conscience, the moral rectitude, the standing to even challenge the people they have placed in power. You understand? So
all right.
ASU is corporate, and these are the people molding our younger generation.
All right, so because our time is fast spent, we have quite a lot of things to discuss, but with very short time that we have right now. So now, just as we know that the youth constitute a large segment of the society, but over time the youth are usually more active during the start of political campaigns or political moves and rallies. You always see them around, but when it comes to the day of the actual elections, they always feel disaffected. You don't see them as much as you see the women. You see women even on the election ground, no matter what. In fact, you even see some of them bring their cooking utensils and start cooking. They say, no matter what, we stand here. But you don't see such for the youth. Now, I'm going to ask you two questions in one. Do you think that this INEC's move to bring in, if in terms of accreditation, starting your accreditation from the comfort of your house with your telephones, because after all, we call ourselves the technology savvy generation, so it means you don't have any excuse anymore. INEC has given you that opportunity. Has it actually done anything at all in terms of galvanizing the youth to get affected when it comes to matters that concern them and then put their thumb where their mouth is?
No. Most of the youths are a disappointment. If you go to Facebook, if you go to Instagram, if you go to TikTok, if you go to Twitter, and you see what is engaging the attention of the youth, you will feel sorry for this nation. A critical year like this, the youth are not even interrogating these supposed leaders that are throwing themselves forward to take leadership positions. The few that are on the system talking politics are busy insulting other politicians. Some are hired just to be insulting opponents. So what they do basically is not engagement. The consciousness, the conscience of the people have been seared with an iron. such that they're no more thinking about the good of the nation, the nationhood. They are thinking about tribe, they are thinking of religion, they are thinking of ethnicity. Okay, these are the things that are defining our value system. Until we get our value system right, the youth have no way to influence the process, because what have been built into their brain is different. They are not used to it. They don't know. In fact, the generation that are coming now, some of us experience both sides of why I can sit down here and talk like this is because I came from the other generation. I experienced a time when there was conscience in the country. But generations that are born after 1999, that are seeing the nation the way it is, they take it as normal. They feel like this is how we are. I was at NEPA office the other day just to process a meter for my house. I paid them the money. Give me the meter. It has become a story. And when I went there, one of the officials there just said, this is Nigeria. So when he made that statement, he feels he has answered all my questions. This is Nigeria. So when we say this is Nigeria, it is a place where nothing works. It's a place where no order exists. It's a place where when you switch on the fan, the light, the fan starts. That's the kind of country we are running.
All right. Our time is fast spent, but if you can, in less than 10 seconds, we'd like you to speak to the conscience, because you talked about conscience here. We'd like you to speak to the conscience of these delegates, because we're going into the primaries already, which will end in June 3rd. In less than 10 seconds, very quickly.
The delegates should think about the future of their children who are yet unborn. Their own generation is already wasted. Some of them may not. I'm not prophesying death to anybody, but we have a lifespan. For me, I always tell people that I know how long I'm going to live. I know how long the remaining part of my life is. There's a maximum that I can't go beyond. I've spent half of it already. But your children still have a longer way to go. So as you are selecting leaders, think about future generations.
Great. Thank you so much.
Don't mortgage your future.
Thank you so much. What a way to anchor this conversation. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful time having this talk with you, Engineer Terver. It's a very wonderful time having this talk with you.
Thank you so much for bringing me on board.
Great. All right, viewers, that's all we can take for today. We have been chatting with Engineer Terver Atsar. He is a governorship aspirant for Benue State, and it's been a wonderful time here on The Conversation. I'm sure you must have been rightly educated, entertained, and informed. I will definitely see you next time. Keep watching The Conversation, because you never know who my next guest will be. Until next time, from the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Annabelle Oji. God bless Nigeria.